Judiciary Committee meeting. I'm going to call it to order. Now, the purpose of the meeting, we're going to hear from Ms. Janet DeFori, who's been nominated for the position of Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals. But before we continue, we've been joined by two other members, Senator Rasenhofer, Senator Stavisky. Welcome. I would like to have you talk to the committee, give us a little bit about your background, your qualifications, and any information you'd like to share with us concerning your abilities and why you would be a good fit for the Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Chair, Senator Hassel-Thompson, members of the committee, please allow me to begin today by introducing my family who has traveled here with me today in support of today's events. My husband, Dennis Glazer, who is a retired partner and former chair of the litigation department at Davis Polk and Wardwell. My son, Joseph Glazer, who is a Columbia Business School graduate and is running his own tech startup in New York City. My son, Michael Glazer, who is a wealth management advisor at Morgan Stanley, and thank you for being here. My daughter, Alexandra Murphy, who is a prosecutor in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and her husband, Matthew Murphy, who, another lawyer in our family, is an associate at O'Melveny & Myers, had work and family obligations that prevented them from traveling here today. And, of course, the absolute love of my life, my 2-year-old granddaughter, Charlotte Murphy, was unable to travel without her parents today, so she's not here as well. Thank you for that point of personal privilege, Senator. So I am absolutely honored to appear before you today, having been nominated by Governor Cuomo to serve as the Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals and of the State of New York, and to seek your recommendation for Senate confirmation of that nomination. I want to take the opportunity at the outset of my remarks to assure each and every member of this body, as well as the Governor and the people of the State of New York, that if confirmed, I will work hard every day to the best of my ability to serve with independence and integrity. Over the past 35 years, I have dedicated my professional career to public service and the fair administration of justice, starting with my very first job out of college in the City Court of Mount Vernon, New York, where I was born, raised, and educated in my city's public schools. I went to law school to become a prosecutor in the Westchester County District Attorney's Office and to serve the public safety needs of the people in my home county. And over the years I spent in that office, I came to a deep understanding and appreciation of the incredible positive impact public service can have on the communities that we collectively, as public servants, are privileged to serve. And over the course of my career, I have been fortunate to serve in positions of increasing importance, first as an assistant district attorney, then as a trial judge, as a supervising judge of the criminal courts for the 9th Judicial District, and most recently as the elected district attorney in my county. I have also been privileged to serve as the co-chair of the statewide Justice Task Force and the Joint Commission on Public Ethics, as well as numerous other commissions and bodies dealing with issues of fair, even, and ethical administration of justice. With each new position and challenge I have accepted, I have been keenly aware of the growing impact of my responsibilities and the consequential nature of the work that I led. With each new opportunity and challenge I accepted, I have employed the same formula to help me master my new responsibilities, and it is the very same formula I intend to use if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed by the Senate. It always begins and ends with hard work and a relentless pursuit of excellence. It involves a consistently applied, nonpartisan respect for my colleagues and for my partners in government, while always being mindful of the importance of maintaining independence in my decision-making. In addition, I strive to bring a fair and balanced approach to every case or issue that comes before me. And finally, I bring a total, unwavering loyalty and devotion to the government institutions that I have been privileged to serve. I understand that members of this committee are fully informed and familiar with my background, experiences, and accomplishments, as well as my professional and personal reputation. And I say to you all very humbly that I am extremely proud of the work I have done and the contributions I have made to the fair and effective administration of justice in our state. As a trial judge presiding over hundreds of civil and criminal matters, as a supervising judge of the criminal courts for the 9th Judicial District, leading important court initiatives to improve the provision of justice services to litigants and lawyers in our courts, and as the district attorney, leading a large prosecutor's office where, together with an outstanding staff of committed attorneys, investigators, and administrative personnel, I have built a prosecutor's office that is a model with a well-earned reputation for being fair, effective, and balanced in our work. Finally, I respectfully submit that my training and my professional experiences have made me a careful lawyer, respectful of stare decisis and the rule of law, an effective administrator and manager, and a careful steward of taxpayer dollars, all important predictors and indicators of my ability to serve effectively as Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals and of the State of New York, and I am proud to place my record of achievement before you for your consideration. Thank you for your attention, for the opportunity to appear before all of you today, and I am happy to answer any questions that you have of me.
Thank you very much, Mrs. DiFiore.
You're welcome.
Very impressive, your background, and doing it all as a mother of 3, raising 3 children in your private life.
And a granddaughter.
Yeah, and Charlotte. We're joined by Senator Lanza. Good afternoon, Senator. I have a series of questions that I'd like to ask you.
Yes, sir.
When I heard your name being, as the governor, putting your name forward as the nominee, the first thing I thought of, is she going to be independent? And as I spoke to many of my colleagues, that too was on their mind. Because of the close relationship you've had with the governor, you've served on 2 commissions, and it's important to all of us that the judiciary branch always be independent. So let me ask you specific questions. The role of Chief Judge, to me, it seems to evolve over the years into a policy director role for the judiciary. Given your policy-making relationship with the governor, how would you go about separating the interest of the judiciary from the interest of the executive to maintain judicial independence? Could you talk to that?
Yes, of course. And first, let me say that I share your interest in judicial independence, and I care deeply about the credibility and the integrity of the judiciary and the judicial system. And I know and understand the primacy and the necessity of judicial independence, and not only judicial independence in fact, but the appearance of judicial independence at every level of the system in order to inspire the people's confidence in our ability to be fair and just without regard to outside agendas or outside forces. And to your point, Senator, the Chief Judge does indeed have many different roles and responsibilities. And on the adjudicative side of the Chief Judge's obligations, the cases are the cases, and they are absolutely inviolate. On the administrative and management side, as the executive of the judicial branch of government, it is my full intention that if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed by this body, to make certain that I am working hard every day to advance my relationships with my partners in government, here in the legislative branch of government, as well as the executive branch of government. And specifically to your point on policy, my view is this. If I am fortunate enough to be confirmed and I lead the judiciary, it is my responsibility to make certain we are doing everything we can to honor our core mission at the courts, and that is the speedy, fair, and just resolution of cases. And whether it's a policy issue or an operational issue, you have my word that I will be working closely with my partners here in the legislature as well as in the executive branch. Always, always mindful, and I believe that I have a record to support this, of my role representing the judicial branch of government and always promoting independence in fact and appearance.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, I did a little checking historically on Supreme Court chief judges and chief judges of the Court of Appeals, and I saw that Judge Rosenblatt and Governor Pataki, they disagreed on the death penalty. Judge Wachter and Governor Mario Cuomo disagreed on most things in general. At the Supreme Court level, President Eisenhower was in constant disagreement with Chief Judge Earl Warren, particularly on civil rights. So the governors and presidents were frustrated with their choice, but no matter what the outcome, whether you agree or disagree, these judges were committed to the rule of law, not the rule of their appointer. And I think you've made it clear that you would embrace that philosophy and not be committed to the rule of the appointer. Let me just continue on a couple other things, if I may. I notice you've done some publications and my view pieces on trying to raise the age of criminal responsibility from 16 to 18. You favor that, and you've said so in your capacity as a district attorney. Let's assume, for the sake of discussion, a hypothetical. Governor Cuomo uses his executive authority and says, this is the law, and bypasses the legislature. And this Constitution authority question between the the governor and the state legislature falls before you. What do you do, having given publications of your personal preference of what you would like to see happen?
Well, when you ascend the bench, your personal views are your personal views, and your work will speak for itself. I understand executive authority. I understand the limitations of executive authority, but I also understand my role, if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed, to make certain that each and every case that comes before me is decided on the merits without regard to any outside forces or influences. You have my word on that.
Okay. Just another question. In criminal responsibility, ages 16 to 18, if someone is a drug user, in your opinion, would you deem them nonviolent as opposed to capability of violence? And maybe how do you separate whether they would go to a juvenile delinquent court system and being segregated from adult prison population? Just a drug user, how, as opposed to
well, if you're
acts of violence. I guess my question is, do you think all drug users are not prone to violence?
Well, I wouldn't form that opinion or advance that opinion. I don't know. Each case is taken on its individual merits. Every individual is assessed for the acts that he or she is accused of and their history and background. And I've had a great deal of experience over the course of my career doing just that.
Okay. You know, the budget that's been presented to us by the Judiciary is in excess of our 2% state-imposed limit that we do voluntarily. Is this Judiciary budget going to be your budget, or is it going to be your predecessors?
Well, I didn't obviously prepare the judiciary budget, but if I am confirmed, you can bet that that will be one of the first things that's on my agenda to speak with the staff with, and we'll go forward from there.
Do you have a favorite Court of Appeals judge?
Actually, I do.
Who would that be?
I do. It would be Stanley Fold.
Okay. In the past, chief judges of the Court of Appeals can be split into two categories. Consensus builders, acting as a whip to get the bench to think as one mind or opinions, or allow splits in the court's reasoning and many different opinions in the majority of cases. What will be your style as a chief judge?
Well, I believe that it's important for the Court of Appeals of our state, the highest court, to speak with one authoritative voice when that is possible, and to produce a strong, authoritative, decisional body of law. And I think that unanimity or near unanimity is worth the effort to attempt to achieve. But on occasion, there will be foundational disagreements in cases in which you can't reach unanimity.
I don't know how familiar you are with some of the concerns expressed by the public with the courts, staffing issues, technology issues, access to the courts. Is this something you see yourself getting involved in and trying to address some of these concerns by the public?
Absolutely. I am very interested in making certain that people have access to the courts and the justice services that the judges and the non-judicial personnel across the state provide. And of course, I do have an interest in technology and finding ways that technology can help us improve and service our core mission in the way that the people across the state would expect us to. So yes, the answer is yes.
My last question is, would you consider yourself a judicial activist, or would you consider yourself a traditional judge that would interpret the law and not make law through judicial decisions?
I don't consider myself a judicial activist. I have a record to support that. My approach has always been each individual case on its own merits, sir.
Thank you very much, Mrs. DeFiore.
You're very welcome.
Senator DeFrancisco.
Thank you. Thanks for calling me in advance of the meeting to discuss some of these issues. But I noticed in the outline that you submitted to everyone that and you mentioned it, New York State Justice Task Force co-chair. And one of the things that is being discussed is wrongful convictions. In fact, there was a letter that Senator Bonasek just referred to from an individual who was wrongfully not only accused, convicted, and incarcerated. Now, there's no question that the Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals has, for many, many years, no matter who it was, gotten involved in policy issues, advocating for legislation, advocating for fairness in the judicial system. And you're well aware that there is a Commission on Judicial Conduct. I've got a bill in dealing with a commission on prosecutorial conduct. Now, have you weighed in on that concept at all as a DA? I know I was inundated by DAs showing how unwise that was to ever even consider that there'd be wrongful conduct on behalf of a district attorney. Have you ever weighed in on that issue up to this point in time?
No, not to this point in time. That was a separate group.
Okay, that's number one. Number two is you indicated in your resume here that after this wrongful conviction, you got actively involved, you did an investigation as to what the problems were, and I'm not looking to find out who the DA was involved in the conviction, but did you determine that there was more than simply errors in the process, that maybe there was something that should have been done, either the non-disclosure of exculpatory evidence or something which implicated whoever handled the case, or any other cases you reviewed on your, as a member of that group, that caused you concern?
In the particular case, Senator?
Yes.
No. In fact, in that case, the exculpatory evidence was laid before the jury, and the jury found the man guilty of the crimes that we later learned he did not actually commit.
All right, but as a member, as co-chair of the New York State Justice Task Force, you've discussed wrongful convictions from time to time with your members, I assume.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. In that study or in your work, have you found any examples of questionable conduct on behalf of prosecutors?
The New York State Justice Task Force has examined cases in New York State. We have not uncovered a case, to the best of my knowledge, similar to the cases we've read about in Texas and other places. What we have focused on are issues such as the video recording of custodial interrogations, improving the practice around eyewitness identifications to make certain that we are creating the best atmosphere in which a witness is called upon to identify a perpetrator. We've spoken about and examined the issues around increased and accelerated discovery, forensic sciences, the DNA data bank, the expansion of the DNA data bank, and post-conviction access to DNA, the legislation that was passed.
Okay, and as a judge, have you ever run into situations where you've had to admonish prosecutors for conduct that was inappropriate with respect to a criminal prosecution?
I personally have not.
And have you know of any such situation?
Well, I read about them.
Okay, but what is the remedy, in your understanding, right now, if there is withholding evidence or if there is some misconduct on behalf of a prosecutor? What's your understanding of the remedy?
Right now, the remedy lies with the leader in that office, the elected district attorney, with the grievance committee.
Okay, and what are the possible results of someone who has been found to have done something that is inappropriate in the court?
Well, it could be, if it's an internal proceeding in the district attorney's office, the discipline can be anything from private admonishment, additional training, docking of pay, to the ultimate center would be a firing and a public disclosure and a referral to the grievance committee.
And the grievance committee is the local grievance committee, whatever
Would be the appellate division grievance committee.
Okay. And since you were a judge, since you were under this umbrella, your conduct had to comply with what conduct is prescribed of judges. Do you think that system has worked from your experience as a judge, a prosecutor, or whatever?
In my personal experience, I certainly do. There's never been an occasion where I have...
Senator, I think we're going to have to move on. I have so many other members that want to ask questions. You want to wrap it up?
I just want to wrap up with this point. I'm not going to ask you whether you support the bill. I don't think it's fair. But all I'm suggesting is to bring this bill out because you had I guess the question is, would you keep an open mind as the chief administrative officer of the courts of the state of New York? As you review cases, as you hear of situations before you on presentations, that a similar remedy or similar process that's for judges would be advisable or not advisable? Would you consider that with respect to the prosecutor in a criminal case?
Of course I would.
Okay. Would you consider it well? Thank you. Thank you.
Judge Hassel-Thompson.
Judge Hassel-Thompson.
She wanted me to call her, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable DeFiore, Chief Judge Cade made reform of our indigent defense system a major part of her legacy. Likewise, Chief Judge Lippman made reform of our civil legal service system a major part of his legacy. Last year, New York State settled the Herring case, which calls for case caps, lawyers at arraignment, investigators, and expert witnesses to provide effective legal criminal representation to poor people. The next couple of series of questions will be somewhat under that heading. Starting with, do you support the extension of Herring to the other upstate counties and Long Island who, as of this moment, do not fall under the jurisdiction of that legislation?
I do, Senator.
Do you think that there should be a civil right to counsel?
A civil right, a civil Gideon. I can't answer that question because I think the litigation is likely to come if there is litigation before me.
Will you be giving any thought to creating a mandatory pro bono program for the needs of the indigent to ensure that they are adequately addressed, particularly in civil matters?
Well, certainly I'm committed to that, and I would give some thought, and particularly if you have something on your mind, I would hope, given our long history and our interest in good government and the mission of the courts, that you would share that with me.
Well, I got a lot on my mind. There had been some discussion, prior to this hearing. I convened a briefing of the staff of our conference, and so that there was some discussion about everyone is in agreement that should be a pro bono program. I was speaking more to the mandatory, and there was some discussion about whether that would be in keeping or whether we'd get pushback. So that was the nature, really, of that particular question. Would you be in favor of switching the responsibility for public defense in criminal cases from the counties to the state?
I don't know enough about the financial aspects of that to answer that question intelligently, but certainly that is something that I would review and come to a conclusion on.
And you will share with me at that time
Most
your
certainly.
conclusion?
Most certainly.
Thank you. Would you be in favor of establishing statewide standards as the number of felony and misdemeanors that the public defender can handle in a year outside of New York City?
Yes.
Bail reform. Would you be in favor of revising the current system for setting bail in New York so that it's used more sparingly, such as for violent felonies only?
Well, that's a very difficult question to ask because a bail, I do believe that there are fixes that we need to consider to make certain that people's freedom isn't tied to their ability to pay bail. I don't know that I would whole-scale eliminate bail in any category of cases. Every case requires an independent and responsible review of the individual standing before that judge.
How would this proposal affect, would you continue with the bail reform for the city of New York, which was ordered by Judge Lippman last year?
If you are referring to the court part, yes, absolutely, and I think it will be interesting to see if that formulation is effective and is serving the needs that it was set out to serve. So yes, of course, I will look at that.
Under children's rights, I heard your discussion with Senator Bonasack on raise the age, but I just have a couple of just quick questions. Do you support the governor's current proposal to raise the age of criminal responsibility, and how would this affect the family court, particularly with those cases involving 16 and 17-year-olds?
Well, one of the reasons that I agreed to sit on the Commission on Youth, Public Safety, and Justice is because I am interested in juvenile justice, and I have an expertise on both the criminal side and the family court side, given my long assignment to the family court. And I think that we have to be very careful as we go forward. If it is determined that we should raise the age in New York State, we're going to have to support our family courts, which are courts that are, under ordinary circumstances, very challenged. And in order to receive that new grouping of cases, we have to make certain that our judges on the front lines in the family court and the court staff are prepared to do that and meet their challenges responsibly and effectively.
We have put 25 new judges on the family court in the last 2 years. You also heard it alluded to that the budget that has preliminarily been submitted is I think it's 1.4% over. Would you be pushing for more judges for the family court, even understanding those considerations and concerns?
As I sit here today, I can't answer that question. What I will do, if I am lucky enough to be confirmed by this body, is take a long, hard look at that and make sure that we do have enough in terms of resources, whether they are judicial resources or non-judicial resources. And I will be, if I think and conclude at the end of that review and analysis that we do need additional staffing in terms of new judgeships, you can bet I will be advocating for that.
I thought of 3 other questions, but I won't belabor that. Thank you. The court system itself, the Commission has just recommended an increase in pay for Supreme Court justices almost to the level paid to federal court judges, district court judges. How will the court system pay for this increase? And will there be any impact on the operations of the courts?
Okay. First, let me say I applaud the work of the Commission on judicial compensation, and I think that they did a responsible job, that judges, our hardworking judges across the state, should be reasonably and fairly compensated for the important work that they do. As to your question about the budget, if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed, that is going to be my top priority, to help our staff and work with our partners in government to figure out how we are going to indeed fund that.
My final question, would you favor a constitutional amendment requiring that all village and town justices in this state be attorneys?
I'm being careful because I don't want to answer any questions in which it would be in violation of my ethical guidelines. I don't have a position. I don't know enough about the political ramifications, the local ramifications to answer that question. But if you would like, I will study that issue, and I promise to be back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, we've been joined by Senator Perkins, and I see Senator Latimer's here, who happens to represent Janet DeFiore as a constituent. I think he went to school with her, and we welcome him here today. Welcome, George. The next speaker, and we have many, many speakers, by the way, and we're going to stay here for as long as it takes so every committee member's concerns are addressed, because this is a very important position. Senator Zolio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to the committee. You've answered many of our questions with grace and aplomb, and I congratulate you for that. We do have a major disagreement, though.
Yes.
Your favorite judge is Judge Fold.
Yes.
Mine is Judge Piggott, who happens to be here. Welcome, Judge.
My favorite judge in the room is Judge Piggott.
The temptation, the question of independence raised by Senator Bonasek is one that's essential. But the question of independence is not necessarily independence from an individual as it is independence from the state constitution and, of course, the United States Constitution. I, for one, believe the worst opinion ever in the Court of Appeals' recent history was a decision that totally ignored Article 4 of the New York State Constitution regarding the succession of governor, lieutenant governor, and particularly when a unanimous decision by the appellate division went to indicate that the court said clearly at that time that the Constitution should prevail, the succession plan is enumerated in the Constitution. What the Court of Appeals did is totally wipe out that constitutional provision. You've heard by questions to Senator DeFrancisco, questions from my good friend Senator Ruth Axel Thompson, that you're asked all questions about legislative activity that shouldn't be a prerogative of the courts. It's the job of the legislature to decide these issues, to decide raise the age, to decide bail procedures, to decide questions relative to the criminal justice system, the number of judges, the types of criminal justice measures are all prerogatives of the legislature as based by the Constitution. So my question is, and really more of a comment, don't believe you have to take an opinion on any of these questions. It's not your job. You're going to be very busy running the court system of this state as chief judge. And that I fear that you're going to be tempted too much to voice an opinion, to get involved in this issue, to be, in a way, dictating from the bench when it should be the elected responsibility as stated in our Constitution by elected representatives of this body and the Assembly. So don't feel you have to have an opinion just because a legislator may ask you of one, including myself, that we have the job to do. We certainly want to do it in respect to the Constitution. And I guess I'd ask you, as you take on these responsibilities, never be independent of the Constitution of the state of New York. That's what you cannot separate. And never believe that these responsibilities are the judges or the executive. You know, we have concerns of the fact that the minimum wage laws of our state were changed by executive order, that the types of prerogatives that should be part of the legislature, voting in open forum, debating it on the floor of the legislature as opposed to through the stroke of a pen or a judicial regulation change. And the beauty of your candidacy is that you have been involved in the executive as a prosecutor. You've been involved as a judge. That those experiences will be extremely valuable for you to advise us, but we hope that you'll restrain the temptation to dictate from the bench.
Have my word, Senator.